All right, Steven, I think they're ready for us. You ready?
Uh-huh.
So let's get it. So what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of We Got Next. I'm one of your hosts of the show, Hayes, a.k.a. Shifty, with my boy Steven. On Twitter, it's at Steven_Springs. And shout out to the OK Bears community. So Wagbo, for everyone out there, I was just listening to like an hour and a half of their spaces that they had. Shout out to the Sixers as well for the jersey Steven has on, not necessarily for the game that they had the other night. We'll touch on that in a little bit. Today is going to be heavy in the NFL draft. So if you were expecting more NBA playoffs or crypto stuff, you'll have to tune in for future episodes because the NFL draft was like the biggest thing. Before we get into that, what's been up with the quick slants?
Last week was heavy on the Penn State blue-white game. Recap of spring practice, kind of setting the table for the summer. Some guys getting on campus late, and then the season coming up, obviously. Kind of a little bit of a heads up. I've been trying to get Jay Hill on, but his schedule is hectic to say the least. So trying to work out some deets on that to get him on and spend some time talking about that. Probably gonna put out another episode tomorrow night or Friday night, and I might just do something random like all-time Penn State team. You know, I don't want to really talk about the NBA playoffs right now because it's like the second round is still, you know, we're only 2 games in for most of the series. So might wait till that kind of gets going a little bit to really dive into that. NHL playoffs, same way. Shout out to the Penguins last night, 3 overtimes against the Rangers. That game started at 7. It was over till like close to midnight. And obviously your boy passed out because Mason wakes up with the ass crack of dawn. So that wasn't gonna happen. I wish he would know, when like the game's gonna go late. I wish I could go tell him, be like, yo, dog, like, hey, we're going to 3 overtimes with this Pens Rangers game. Like, can you just like sleep until like 7 maybe? Like 6:30 is like cool because like wife's already up getting ready for work, and I'm basically up. Like 6 is like pushing it. That's like that half hour really makes a difference. So yeah. I wish you would just know. Over time, he'll probably get better at that, or he'll just be up watching it with me. But anyway, so I'll kind of go through probably another recap of the draft too, like just give my quick thoughts, and then spend more time talking about Penn State football, do some random stuff, and then hopefully we can have Jay Hill on. If he can do it this week, cool. If not, I'll probably aim for next week and really dive into a lot of NIL stuff with him. And there's a lot of other things him and I are going to talk about. So stay tuned for this week. And then obviously next week will hopefully be a bigger and better episode.
Cool. So looking forward to that. As always, I tell this to Steven. I tell this to you guys that I honestly listen to all of Steven's episodes because, one, I don't have a lot of time to keep up with all things college football and like NIL stuff. So if I end up listening to it, then I already know, just like a lot of the players that were drafted out of Penn State, I knew about because Steven would bring them up. So
you also don't have a choice. Like you're like you're like the only person that like doesn't have a choice but to listen to every single word I say. Like, like it'd be really awkward if you like, I wouldn't blame you for not listening to it.
Max Kellerman didn't listen to everything Stephen A said.
No. So yeah, and they turned out decently, but I just hope I hope you don't kick me off of this eventually. Yeah, but I appreciate your support, by the way.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, so Steven does the quick slants, focusing on a lot of sports. On Mondays, I try to end up doing the spaces. So last Monday was a pretty good one. We had 2 different ones. I did one at 4 p.m. and then I did one at 7 p.m. If I don't say what time zone it is, it's Eastern Standard Time. I'll try to start using UTC for people out there. But those are 2 good ones. So go back and listen to those. We do appreciate you guys. Listen to that. We did have one person come in to kind of throw us his mixtape. I call it a mixtape because he tried to talk about his cryptocurrency instead of talking about the ones we were focusing on. So stay tuned for that. I had a great call today as well with the metaverse play. It was Solaris. So for anyone out there that's heard of it, they are a great team. I will start touching on them in the coming days and weeks, and I will be buying them come tomorrow. It's a long-term hold. It's not one that you should think that's going to be a quick flip. But I really do like the team. They were really honest with me, not going to give away a lot of details because some of it was private information, but I do really appreciate it. And they're very focused on it. And I could tell that their families do support them as well, which is another big team. So shout out to them. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me. today. It was like a 30-40 minute conversation we had. So I got to learn a lot about them, and they were looking forward to me end up continuing to talk to them. Going into the things that a lot of people are questioning or wondering about, the first thing in the crypto and stocks world, Elon Musk, as everyone knows, bought Twitter based by himself. And the big part about that is he's taking it private, but he said he's going to bring it back public within 3 years. So that's something that I do want to end up seeing. Another thing to everyone in the DGuys community, two things. One, I did sell one of the DGuys that I did have, but we do have one more. So that's something I'm not really stressing about. The other part is Frank and the community and the team, they end up dropping their, Frank, they end up dropping their roadmap, but it's not your normal roadmap. It's actually legit a map. So for anyone out there that has not seen it, go check on the DGuys Twitter page. You'll end up seeing it. It's very creative. It's kind of like an interactive thing. And you get to basically make your own assumptions as to what you think is going to happen in the future. And I think that more teams should end up doing something like this because it's different. A lot of times you expect your job or your community and everyone to lay it out for you, and you assume and you get mad if they don't end up hitting those marks. But with them, they ended up basically putting out a map, and you can guess the timeline of how everything is. And it's up to you. I'll pull it up really quick, and then Steven can give you guys his thoughts on it. It's something that anybody in the world can end up basically giving input on. Okay. So what are your thoughts? This is the roadmap that they put out.
It looks like something that I had when I was a kid, and I would put my cars on it and drive all over it.
Exactly. And
are those the thoughts you were looking for?
So I like hearing your thoughts because it's going to be different and unique. Whereas that's what a lot of people.
Because I'm a child.
So it's funny because there's so many different things in here that people don't really know. First thing that Steven can relate to. So the DGuys end up buying a team in the big three. So they bought the Killer Bees. So now they're the owners of the Killer Threes in the big three. So that's what this right here represents. And then, of course, like this represents something. This planet represents something. These hands represent something. And it's for everyone to end up figuring out what it all represents. But that was the big reason why I brought that up. I wanted to link in there like the Killer Threes because a lot of people that were on the call that are in the NFT community are from like Europe and Asia, and they kind of didn't really know about what the hell the Killer Threes were or like the big three or how kind of important it was in an American sense for them to purchase it. So they bought the team for around $500,000 to $600,000, and then they'll allow up to like 10 to 20 people to be minority owners. Going to the next thing that I wanted to bring up, I did end up purchasing for the company 2 OK Bears. So if you look on the We Got Next channel, we did put one up there. And then if you look on the Shift Movement Digital channel, we did put one up there. So I appreciate it. This is another way to end up gaining new people and gaining new attraction for the podcast. So we hope that you all check that out. Final thing I want to end up bringing up to you all is they announced that in the past quarter and year that venture capitalist firms end up investing $10 billion in the blockchains. So it just shows you the promise that is going to be had within the blockchain space. And we're looking forward to seeing what happens as we continue to go forward. With that being said, we're going to segue over into what you guys probably want to hear. So we'll do a rapid fire of the NBA playoffs, and then we'll dive into the NFL draft. So first one, quick thoughts on the Warriors Grizzlies. It's 1-1 series.
I'm going to link this one also to the Mavs and the Suns, which is game 2 is tonight. It's basically Ja versus the
whole team.
The Warriors, and then Luka versus the Suns. Like, I don't trust anybody else on either of those teams to keep up with it. Desmond Bane is cold now. I kind of probably could have seen that one coming. Yeah. Luka has no help.
Brunson's
Luka's probably going to average 40 and 15, like 15 assists, which is like, astronomical numbers. So I think both those series might go like 6, just because both those guys are great enough where they can do that. But come game 3, game 4, those guys are going to be dead tired.
Yeah.
So they're young enough, they have the legs, but they're just going to be putting so much out there that it's they're just going to be so tired. And I think everyone really probably wants to see the Suns and the Warriors. So I hope those series go 7. That'd be great. I hope the Suns get bounced, but I don't see that happening. But I just like, there's not like, I don't really the playoffs, like, it's not like, not doing it for me this year. You know what I mean? I think because we're missing a certain name or like a couple names.
He's biased.
Like, so yeah, I think it's like I'm watching way more than I thought I was going to. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
I told myself I probably wasn't going to, but like, it's sports. I'm gonna watch it. The game 2 is going on down in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time I checked, Sixers are only down 8. DeAndre Jordan has 6 points, so that's cool.
That's impressive.
Shout out.
Shout out.
But yeah, I mean the playoffs, like, it's just they're not good matchups. There's like good individual players in those matchups, but it's not like good team matchups.
Yeah. 2 thoughts for everyone out there. I'm not watching the Warriors Grizzlies series because I know the outcome of what will happen. I watch.
But those are your boys, though.
It is, but this is the point where, and I was explaining this to my mom because she was like, "Why aren't you watching it with me, Chris?" And I said, "Because I would stress too much watching it." The Minnesota series, I knew they would come out, but that was like the toughest matchup they would ever have in terms of they knew how to shut down Ja, and other players had to step up. Now they can't stop Ja. It's more so the Warriors will outshoot them. Like, Ja's going to miss shots. Everyone knows this. 2s and 3s don't add up. If they hit more 3s than 2s, you're going to lose. Like, that's really what's going to happen.
Hey, I know we say you're not a financial advisor and you don't give financial advice, but hey, that was good. That was good shit, bro. That was good shit, bro.
I know.
That was dropping knowledge right there, man. Wow.
Those 3 are not going to be off every single game. Like, they are going to hit fire. And I was texting my brother last night because he said, "Yo, like, we got to get Grizzlies jersey." Absolutely not, because Ja is going to have to do 2. He's not getting 45, 47 points every single game. He can get a good amount, but we need Jackson. You need Brooks, who might be suspended. Who knows?
Yeah.
You need Bane. And that's the big thing. That shows you, everyone wanted to say Desmond Bane was a superstar. This shows you he's not there yet. He did great because they focused so much on Ja that he was able to step up. But they don't need him no more.
Yeah, and like the Mavs and the Grizzlies, just talking about those 2 teams, like they're in like the beginning stages of like, they're like both those teams are going to be around for a while. They both have elite players, with Ja and Luka, but they don't have anything to like. Nothing's built around them. They have all role players. It's like LeBron in Cleveland his first go around. He had LeBron, and then you had a bunch of role players, and some of them were
Booby.
Stop. You had Anderson Varejao. You had guys like that. You had like a retired Ben Wallace. You had a retired Shaq. Like, they'll eventually those teams will get those players, but they don't have like, you got to have a 1-2 punch. You got to have 2 all NBA players. I think that's pretty obvious. Or if in the case of the Warriors, you draft those players and they develop into.
That was good.
I don't think anyone really saw that team becoming what it is now. But like that's just the development of those players. So I think they're like those teams will be around. And I think you're seeing like the development now of like the Celtics. Like you have 2. Jaylen Brown's not an all NBA player, but he's like, he's climbing that tier of players in the NBA. Jason Tatum is a top 10 player probably, or
the way he's playing,
damn near close. So and Giannis. The Bucks have Giannis. Like Chris Middleton's a all-star player. It's not all NBA is pushing sometimes. He's kind of inconsistent. Giannis is obviously one of the top 3 players in the league, so he does it on both ends. Different when you have a guy like that. So I think those other 2 teams. I think you should get a jersey. By the way, I think you probably should, but I think those teams are definitely climbing. Just not. They'll get bounced this year and maybe make like the second round again next year. And like, it's going to be that for a couple of years until they get that, second piece of the puzzle, which like, I thought it was going to be Porzingis for the Mavs, but like, fuck that.
Yeah. My only thoughts about Bucks Celtics is Derek White was out there having fun yesterday. He had 0 points, but just was running around.
doing cardio, man.
Just doing cardio.
Getting his cardio, bro. Just pulling a Tony Snell. Just getting his cardio, bro. Good for him.
So, and he took shots for everyone out there. He did take shots.
Do you think speaking of having fun, do you think Doc Rivers is drunk when he's coaching?
Might
or like when he does press conferences?
He might be sometimes.
Yeah, I heard someone on Twitter say his voice sounds like it's ashy.
the way he talks.
That was cracking me up, bro. Someone said they gotta put Vaseline on his throat. Dude, some of the things he says, like some like the explanations are like, I don't, he said in the huddle the other day, he was saying like, if we play harder, like that means we're going to be the team that wins. I'm like, what does that even mean? No, it does not. That means nothing.
Mm-mm.
Like clearly it doesn't, because you have Tyler Hero outscoring everybody on the Sixers roster.
Yeah,
Tyler Hero though, winning
shout out
Sixth Man of the Year. He's living the dream, bro.
Oh, so I will say I'll take those 2 cents of appreciation, because in the beginning of the year I did say he was going on the 6th man. So we'll segue into the NFL draft. Yeah, because that's the only thing there. We talked about Mavs, Suns, Heat, Sixers, Bucks, Celtics, and then Warriors, Grizz. So you got 4 left, and then I'll move on. So moving on to the NFL draft. So that was probably the biggest thing. Thank you to everyone that ended up watching and listening to us. Because I did notice that people listen to us.
Do you know how many people we actually had? Like total?
Surprised it was like over 15 people.
I had BJ and his 2 brothers, or one of his brothers, listened for a hot second. My buddy Kumar listened, I think, for like a half hour, maybe like 45 minutes. So that was dope. I mean, we definitely got to do more of that, like live stuff for like NBA draft, kind of whatever. It's like a hit or miss type of thing.
Those
but
are so much tougher. Yeah.
Same concept. We got to do that for like certain events that we have, and we have a lot of plans for the summer. Doing like together, like being together, round table type of discussions, that kind of shit. But that live stuff, it's like same thing we're doing now, just like live.
Yeah, exactly. So other thing with that is we might be able to do the World Cup. Steven probably wouldn't do it, but I would do it. But
is the USA in there, right? They're in it.
I think they snuck in. Yeah. So
excellent. Love it. They snuck in.
They snuck in. So for everyone out there that paid attention to that NFL draft, I always like the NFL draft. It's one of my more exciting events that I like to watch and kind of keep up with. I'm bringing this up for 2 reasons. One, I want to bring up an undrafted free agent that got a dumb contract, and I wish I could get this. And his name goes by the name of Carson Strong, quarterback out of Nevada. This man signed with the Eagles, and he got $320,000 guaranteed with
signing
a
bonus.
$20,000 signing bonus. He didn't even get drafted, and he got this.
Speaking of those type of guys, Penn State defensive end, outside linebacker Jesse Luketa got drafted 7th round by the Cardinals. Shout out to him. But he's from Canada. He also got drafted in the CFL draft yesterday. So he got drafted twice in the span of 4 days. So good for him. But
that's it.
Let me shout out to Penn State, but
so the other one I wanted to bring up was,
well, real quick. Can I just say my displeasure for Penn State football real quick?
Go ahead.
I know I love Penn State football. We had 8 players drafted, which was, I think, the 3rd most, right? How many games? What was our record last year? 7-6.
I know.
Like, that's all I wanted to say. It just makes me sad and angry.
So here's something else that'll make everyone sad. Trayvon Walker, who got drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, signed a 4-year, $37.37 million deal with $24 million as a signing bonus, and he has a 5th-year option. That's not even the first pick in the draft yet. So that's just crazy in that sense. But going into it, we're going to end up just going division by division. We'll start with the AFC North because that's the first one on my sheet. And what we'll end up doing, just talk a little bit about it because we don't want to waste you guys' time for like 2-3 hours, although we can go in depth with that. So we'll just give our initial thoughts, and then we can kind of say who from that division we think might be a surprise person, and then we'll go like overall. So AFC North, since that's your baby, what are your thoughts?
Unfortunately, I think the Ravens had a really stellar draft. Their two first round picks, safety Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, Tyler Lindenbaum from Iowa. Like, those 2 guys are arguably the 2 best at their positions. Lindenbaum, I know all the left tackles get all the love, but like if you can get a dominant center, which he was at Iowa, or a dominant guard. We saw Quentin Nelson go from Notre Dame when he went to the Colts. That's huge. It's so unfortunate. Like, I was so pissed when they got Kyle Hamilton because I would have really loved if he kept falling and fell to the Steelers. But I think the Steelers were set on Kenny Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
Going over to that, I don't love the pick. I know all like Steelers fans like rejoice because like Trubisky, I think they got him on a 2-year deal. So like Pickett is obviously the quarterback of the future, right? Like he had awesome numbers. He had awesome, he was a Heisman finalist. He had, all that kind of good stuff. But like, I think you gotta, and this is why you and I aren't GMs. I think you gotta like think outside of that box. Like just because there's a quarterback available, and teams do this sometimes, just because there's a quarterback available doesn't mean you got to take that quarterback. And notice who was the next quarterback taken? Was it Malik Willis? Was it Desmond Ritter? No, it was Malik Willis, I think. And he went like second, third round, whatever it was. Like pick it. They said there was going to be a run of the quarterbacks, which there always is.
Ritter was drafted in the 3rd round, 10th pick. Then Malik Willis, 22nd. Then Matt Corral, 30th.
That was a surprising pick, but I don't love the pick. I think you could have gotten somebody else. You could have drafted around and like filled in some spaces around Kenny or Trubisky. But you have your quarterback for the future. He's going to come in right away and be able to compete. So it is what it is. But I do think the Ravens had the best pick, the best draft out of that division.
So my thoughts on, I would say this one. One, I like what the Ravens did. Although Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum were 2 of the better picks, I want everyone to pay attention because I noticed the Ravens haven't done anything really with their wide receivers. So pay attention, Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina, because they like to go to their tight ends. If you remember, I think they had 3 tight ends, and one of them was Hayden Hurst, who ended up going to Atlanta. So that was that year that they were using like the 3-set tight ends. So pay attention to that. The Bengals did good. The Browns, I want to see what Cade York does, because this was an interesting draft, like how high punters and kickers are getting drafted. So I want to see what Cade York ends up doing. And then I also am really curious what the Steelers do, because the Steelers did choose 2 wide receivers, which means that they were focusing on that as the position of need. And then
George Pickens could have been a 1st-round pick if he didn't have injuries.
Exactly. Yeah. You got a little Doug over there, George Pickens as well. But,
bro, did you see how he was watching the draft when he got picked? Did I send you the video?
No, I saw it though.
What are you like? Someone said I think I sent you either. I don't think I sent you the caption. I think I sent to Jay Hill, but the caption was either, all right, he's either going to be an All-Pro or he's going to be suspended by week 5. No in between.
Yeah, no in between.
My guy would look like a Grand Theft Auto character looking at the TV. I was so confused about that.
So last thing with this division, so the Steelers did draft 2 quarterbacks, which is another interesting thing. So they got a bunch of different quarterbacks up there. So I want to see what they do, but they also position themselves that they can still draft again next year, another quarterback in the coming years if they need to. They are looking at Pickett, but they did put themselves in a situation of they are going to kind of be the status quo for next year. Just with the team that they drafted, it's not going to be like super awesomely amazing because they drafted Kenny Pickett. So they understand, but Steelers as a franchise have those same title expectations like year over year. They have that strong fan base and stuff like that. I personally am excited to see what the Ravens do because they don't have receivers. Like that's the one thing that they need. And every year they just say, nah, we don't really need it. And I'm really interested to see what will happen. Next division I want to go to is the AFC West. So what are your thoughts over there?
I don't think it was like a stellar draft by any of those teams, I think if you look at a lot of the draft grades, I feel like a lot of teams were getting like A's and B's because they're like if you had a 1st-round pick or you did good in the first 2 rounds, it'll likely boost that grade.
That's what they base it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think anybody really did a lot. Like looking at, I do like the George Karlaftis pick by the Chiefs.
Yeah,
he went a lot later than I thought. I think I was saying his name a lot in the the first like 15 picks. I do have to give a shout out to Najee Johnson, safety out of Marshall. He is the nephew of my manager at work. So shout out to him. He got drafted by the Chiefs. He's a safety. He's a corner going safety from Marshall. He went to the Chiefs. So shout out to him. Shout out to Najee Johnson. But I think Trent McDuffie also by the Chiefs, kind of like a lesser known name playing in Washington. I think not a lot of people knew who he was. And there was a lot of other big name corners out there. So like, kind of like the wide receiver class, like people knew who Jahan Dotson was, for example. Granted, he went in the first round as well, but like, he wasn't as well known as Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, guys like that. Even like George Pickens probably was more well known because he played for Georgia. So things of that. But what do you got in the AFC West?
So I'll start this off by saying my favorite player in this division, possibly that conference, was Sky Moore going to the Chiefs.
People love that pick.
Yeah. So I'm glad that the Chiefs did that. Everyone knows that it'll take more than one person to fill Tyreek Hill's shoes, because that's a lot to end up doing. But I do like what they did there. Sky Moore went to 3 receivers, and I'll get into them, that I love the places they went to because they can be good fits. Sky Moore, Christian Watson, and Treylon Burks. Those were 3 that I did mention before we did the draft, and they went to good places. Nick Bonito has big shoes to fill as well, going to the Broncos, because that's going to be Von Miller's spot that he has to do. Another one I want everyone to watch was probably Joshua Williams. So he's an HBCU kid, Fayetteville State. And the big thing about that is they kind of have to come into the league with that chip on their shoulder, because they have to like work so much harder than everybody else. Who was it? Terry Cohen, I think it was. Who's the one on the Bears? Yeah. So just what they had to do. I remember watching him, like in all of his games, they have to ball out so much more to even get that recognition. So that's another one. The last thing I'll end up saying is pay attention to the Chargers secondary. They've been doing a lot with that secondary, and they got JT Woods. So that's another person to go in the secondary. They drafted 2 cornerbacks late.
If Derwin James is healthy.
Yeah. So that's something that they tried to make a focal point. Then the Raiders, of course, they tried to focus on defense to an extent. I know they got an offensive lineman, and they got 2 defensive tackles. But my big one for that one is Sky Moore, just to see how him and Patrick Mahomes can end up working out. They kind of started talking about Sky Moore the way, if you guys watched the draft, they talked about Cooper Kupp. Because when Cooper Kupp was coming out, like they praised Cooper Kupp at the NFL Scouting Combine. And that was the name you started to hear more often, just for people that did research on it. So that's like their 2 little cents. But going over to the next one, this is the division we both probably are excited to talk a little bit about, the AFC East.
Yeah, I think the Jets had the best draft out of anybody.
Absolutely.
I think
where'd that GM come from?
ODU? I don't know.
No.
Who?
Douglas, right?
Yeah, Joe Douglas. Where was he before?
He wasn't with the Eagles ever?
Was he? Oh, you're right. Good call. I always forget about that because the Eagles always screw up, but he redeems himself. They got Sauce. Like they had probably, I think, with Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson, who cannot believe he fell to them at 26.
I know.
They had 3 guys who in a lot of mock drafts were top 10 picks.
Yeah.
And they got Gardner at 4, they got Garrett Wilson at 10, and then they got Jermaine Johnson at 26. So you have obviously this is all based on potential, right? Like, but you have a day 1 starter in Gardner, you have a day 1 starter in Garrett Wilson, you have a day 1 starter in Jermaine Johnson. Breece Hall, like sleeper pick.
Yes. Yeah.
Like people
might be out.
College football fans know who he is, and running backs, you can draft them literally whenever you want. Unless there's like a Zeke Elliott or Saquon Barkley and everything. Apparently some people overall grades had him as high as they did Barkley and other running backs in the past. He's nice. Yeah, he's absolutely nice. So I think the Jets had like by far the best pick or the best draft out of anybody, not just that division. Did you see speaking of that, but that division though, was it Kaiir Elam, the cornerback out of Florida?
Yes.
Did you see his interview that he had with the Bills? I think it was at the Combine.
No.
He said he had no, it was good. It was good content. It was good content. It was like a 20-second clip of him in like one of the suites at the Combine, and he busts out a notebook, and it has like he said it just has notes of all the guys, all the receivers he's played, like tendencies, how they beat him, like, what moves they beat him on, like what he needs to look for.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was just like, and there's 20 scouts and GMs and whatever in that room with all the said teams. I think it was the Bills,
That's impressive.
who eventually drafted him, and they said that he was one of the best interviews that they've ever seen, like yada yada yada. So, some guys come prepared, other guys are Jamarcus Russell, and like, whatever. So, but I think, going back to, I think the Jets had the best draft out of anybody. So hoping, I'm a kind of a bandwagon Jets fan now because of BJ, my brother-in-law, but I really hope that they turn the corner with this one. They have to, like, right?
Yeah,
they have to. Like, this has to be like the draft that like starts to set them up, right? Like they're not going to go 12-5, I guess it would be.
No, but they'll be a better
out,
team.
Yeah,
better team that we've seen in like years, probably since Mark Sanchez.
So
yeah, no. There's three things in this division I want to talk about. The first one is Sauce Gardner is not a normal pick that they have. Sauce Gardner has to go up against Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and then whoever the hell the Pats have. And so Sauce Gardner, they're expecting a lot from him over there. The other one that can be a sleeper is Dalvin Cook's brother. James Cook is going to the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. And the big thing about that is the Bills don't really know who the hell their running back is. So if James Cook can come in there, like Steven said, running backs you can draft whenever. So if James Cook can come in there and take that away from Singletary and whoever else they want to have over there, it could be his job. That's the one position on offense the Bills need to shore up. Everything else is straight. You got Knox, you have Diggs, Sanders, everything is good there. So you just need to worry about this one position. And if you can get that running back down, it'll make your offense so much better in that sense. The other thing is, I am interested to see how Matt Araiza does, because my man was playing in San Diego State, and you got to put his ass in the coldest of the cold. So you going from nice weather, punting all the time, to now you got to get warmed up to end up kicking in the cold. That's the other thing.
Average like 50 yards a punt too.
Yeah, exactly. That ball is much heavier when you're kicking it now. It was a little lighter when you're kicking it in the heat. Last thing is, pay attention to the Patriots. They drafted 2 more running backs, so I don't really know what they're going to do. We don't need to talk about the Dolphins because the Dolphins didn't really care about this draft because they traded away all their picks. Yeah. Going into the last one. So my big one for the AFC East is Sauce Gardner, just because of all the people he has to defend. All the picks that the Jets did were great, but that's the one that means the most, because if you draft him that high and he can't cover Diggs or Hill or even Waddle, that makes a difference. Yeah,
bro. The Dolphins only had 4 picks.
I know.
I honestly that didn't even like dawn on me. Like with all the trading they've done, it didn't even 4 picks.
I know.
That's incredible.
So
that's hard to do, to get just 4 picks. That's something the Eagles would do.
It would be. They kind of almost did that.
They kind of almost traded away all the picks. Yeah,
they did. So going into the AFC South, what are your thoughts?
Same thing with the Jags, man. Like, they fucking killed it, I think. Again, they're not going to be the world beaters. They're not going to win that division next year. But I do think them getting Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, outside linebacker out of Utah.
Yeah.
Casual college football fans probably don't know who he is because he played for Utah, even though Utah was nice last year and they made it to the Rose Bowl. But I think that's a pick. Like, they lost, to that for the former outside linebacker for the Steelers, free agency wise. It's not
Dupree.
Nope. He went from the Jags to the Steelers. Man, what is his name now? I am blanking on it. But anyways, regardless, I think that's a huge pick. I think people are going to look at the Trayvon Walker pick. Yeah, obviously, I was kind of surprised that he went number 1 and not Aiden Hutchinson. But I think it's fine. I think that's a great pick. They went heavy on defense this year.
Yeah.
But I think that Devin Lloyd pick is going to be he's an instant impact player type of guy too.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge pick. And they got him, late first. I think he probably could have been in the second round, but I think that they needed to load up on defense because they have a solid offense to start building around. And you just build that defense that's going to get you going. Also like to pick Snoop Connor, Love that name. Running back at Mississippi out of Ole Miss. I got him in the 5th round. Again, running back, get him whenever.
Yeah.
But I think the Jags best draft in that division, maybe. With those two guys in the 1st round, I think probably. But I think for what they need to do this year in the draft, make sure you can maybe focus on offense. But I think for what they need to do as a team, I think that's made the most sense for them.
The two I would say that did the best, without my bias being in this, the Jags and the Texans. I like the Texans pick of Stingley. It depends on if Stingley's going to be that freshman year Stingley that we all saw. If he can end up coming back to that, that'll be big.
That's the thing about him. You don't know what he's gonna get.
Exactly. And then they also got Mechie. So that's another one. They can pair him up because I'm pretty sure Brandon Cooks is still there. So you have them two, and then you got Mills. So we'll see what they end up doing over there. The other one is the Titans, because I already brought up Treylon Burks. And it's so funny how everyone had the comparisons. Who Treylon Burks was, it was to AJ Brown. So for it to just work out that way, that's just the way the cards happen sometimes.
Finish up.
The other thing that people need to pay attention to is the Titans did very good choosing a backup for Derrick Henry. In case he ever gets injured, Haskins, just like Steven was talking about, the average college football fan might not know, but if you paid attention at all to Michigan, Haskins was scoring touchdowns. It might have been up close, however it might be, but if Henry's out, I don't know if they'll still keep Deontay Foreman or whatever, but you have Haskins that can do well, and they took care of their future because Willis is there too. Clearly, Ryan Tannehill is just saying what the person would say if you know your job's about to be gone soon. And that's what kind of he was doing. He started with the dark place and he ends up going into saying that he's really not going to help mentor him. It depends on your situation. Some quarterbacks will help mentor the quarterback that's coming in. Others might not. Look at Brett Favre and then Aaron Rodgers, that situation right there. Then you have other situations where it was Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes. Situations are different. You just have to know what you're dealing with. So what are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, what were your thoughts on what Tannehill said about Malik Willis?
Oh yeah. That was
yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's what he should say. Mentor is a really strong word. I tweeted this out. Mentor, I think, is something like you're a 15th year quarterback and you're on your last leg and you're probably not going to start this year. So yeah, I would say, in meetings and watching film and in practice and whatever, get him as ready as humanly possible to be that next starter, because that's literally why they drafted him. They didn't draft Malik Willis to be the starter this year. They didn't, that's not, but I think he's right. I think maybe he phrased it wrong for some people, but I think he's totally right. It's not his job to teach him how to be a pro, but I think kind of double-edged sword on that one. Don't be a dick. Don't ignore him in the hallway. You know what I mean? Don't be that guy. And I don't think Tannehill is going to be, but just if you see him doing something wrong, or you see him not maybe doing something exactly right, just say hey, just a quick thought, shit that. You don't need to groom him to be an all-pro quarterback. That's his job. That's why he's in the NFL. That's why Malik Willis is drafted. Be to be a professional, but give him some tips along the way. But don't be a dick.
Yeah. My final two thoughts are the overall best pick that I personally feel for this division, Treylon Burks, just because of the situation. If he can step in and be the player that I think he can be from what I saw in Arkansas, he can do pretty well. The other thing is pay attention to Alec Pierce. Yes, I'm going very heavy on the wide receivers because some of these receivers went to good situations. Alec Pierce will be on the other side of Michael Pittman. If you remember when it was Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley there with Matt Ryan, it can be good. Matt Ryan can throw the ball. That was never the issue. It was everything. Matt Ryan won't move, so that's part of it. Matt Ryan also didn't have linemen the whole time, but Matt Ryan can throw the ball. Everything else just has to work around him. So we'll segue that. We talked about the AFC, and with Matt Ryan, we'll go to his former team. What are your thoughts on the NFC South?
I like all right. So speaking of Falcons, I do like Drake London. I do like I do like what the Saints did with Chris Olave. You got to remember, what's his name is coming back. Man, I'm blank on everybody's name. Yeah, Michael Thomas. So you got two Ohio State. They're literally the same receiver, basically.
Michael
Thomas is probably a little bit faster, but they both have awesome hands. They both run great routes. I saw them both kick Penn State's ass over the year. So like, I know all about them. But I think that Drake London pick, I think is, I mean, you had to get a receiver. So you had your pick. You with being that high, I think you had tons of talent to choose from. I would have gone Garrett Wilson, but the Falcons like the big receivers and pair him with Kyle Pitts. I think that's a really good pick. And I forgot the quarterback is Marcus Mariota. I think you and I we were trying to figure out your face. We were trying to figure out where he was going, or where he was at. So I think that was solid. They got Trevor Penning as well, offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. Panthers got a left tackle for Sam Darnold. So that's another one that's good. I think it was a pretty solid draft overall. Shout out to the Panthers for drafting Brandon Smith, Penn State linebacker in the third round. So he's a guy. If I'm taking a second to dive into the Penn State guys, he's a guy who has a ton of potential. Like everybody in the draft does, but like he's a guy who never really, like, he was labeled as like the next Micah Parsons, like not the next Micah Parsons, but like the guy to replace Parsons. He's a 5-star guy coming in, 6'4", like 250. He can run a 4.5, 4.4. He's got great athleticism. He's the guy who I said last year on the quick slants, like he's one of those guys who just showed a lot of flashes, but like never put all of them together. If he can, 10, 12-year starter, like probably he has that kind of potential. But I was happy to see him get drafted as high as he did. So good for him.
Yeah.
Good for us.
So Steven also didn't bring up the other one that got drafted by Atlanta, Mr. Arnold over there.
Yeah, bro. First of all, I gotta bitch about this too. I got so fucking tired of them bringing out every single person that they could possibly. They were just picking people off the street to come announce these picks. They were just picking literally anybody. Your neighbor Frank, just like, hey, dude, you want to come announce a pick? Sure, dude, gladly. The lady who announced Epic Katie isn't. It took me a couple games to get that right, but like
they should tell them beforehand.
Like, can these people not read? Like, are they like illiterate? Like they just can't read. Like the woman who announced that pick called them the Atlantic Falcons, and she's like Arnold Ebba, whatever. Like, yeah, this guy from Penn State. And I'm like, of course, bro. Of course, the Penn State guy. You fuck up. Like we had, I was so angry about that, but I thought he could go first round. He's not biggest DN. He's not at Aiden Hutchinson, Thibodeau, or Walker, but he's got a great first step, great burst, led the Big Ten in tackles for loss. Not Aiden Hutchinson. So he's day one starter. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. So, another good for us moment.
Yeah. Big thing I wanted to bring up in the NFC South. First off, I wrote down in my notes, the Bucs, nothing special. They kind of just kept it status quo. It wasn't anything amazing. It wasn't anything terrible. The big pick for me that people need to pay attention to is Alontae Taylor that was drafted by the Saints. I think that secondary is becoming like stupid now because they have Tyrann Mathieu, they have Lattimore, they have Gardner, and you have Alontae Taylor that's in there. So they have a bunch of studs that'll do different things. And Alontae Taylor doesn't just have to play corner. He can play safety. So we'll see how they end up matching him up. Drake London pick. I like the player. Like I was telling Steven, I would have wanted Drake London to come to Philly. The big thing about that is I wish they got a speed guy, not just another big guy, because who's the one that's going to take the top off with that? You have Kyle Pitts and you have Drake London, two bigger guys. What are you going to do? Just have Marcus Mariota run around? Like that's what it's going to end up coming to.
And you're not going to redraft a Julio Jones,
You're not going
to draft a Julio Jones. He runs a 4.4, but I would agree with that. I think that's why I said you could. I would have taken Garrett Wilson because the guy who can do both. Olave not as much, but like same deal. So that's why I would have taken Garrett Wilson. But I mean that's just par for the course with Atlanta. Sticking with the big bodies.
Final thing I will say about this one, because we'll touch on a lot of this when we get into fantasy sports. So with the New Orleans Saints drafting Chris Olave,
if you have either of these receivers, you're going to get a good amount of fantasy points because Jameis Winston don't give a damn who he throwing to. It's just going to be thrown. So it might be an interception. It might be a touchdown.
Did you see his latest workout video? No, good. It's God. I don't understand. Like, clearly nothing's working.
No,
like clearly none of these workouts he's doing are like doing anything for him. They're other than like just creating great content for us.
He got kids too. So I really want to know when his kids get older, they're gonna be like, what the hell are you thinking out there? Like, what are you doing?
Corny ass.
Yeah, just stop. So we'll segue over into another division who people call corny, NFC North. What are your thoughts there?
I hate being so like obvious and cliche with this, but like the Lions like fucking killed it. I think that pick of Hutchinson, obviously I saw him also destroy Penn State. So I think that's a huge pick. Jameson Williams pick, I think that's, this receiver class was stacked.
It was, yeah.
All these guys that went first 2 rounds, like the guys, even guys who got drafted a little bit later, they all could have gone in the first round too. Like it's like it was that good. So Jameson Williams, I think, gives Jared Goff another target, to go at. But I think that that Hutchinson pick is obviously a game changer. It's funny how the Packers needed to draft a wide receiver. They didn't
in the first round.
Yeah, they again, there were so many there. Like, yeah, it's like, it's like the Steelers pick. Like, you didn't like you could have done something else, but you maybe went with a bigger need, I guess, maybe long-term wise. But like Aaron Rodgers was like, okay, you guys need to draft the wide receiver in the first round. And then all they want to do is piss off Aaron Rodgers.
That's right. It's so weird what they're doing.
And they did. Like,
no sense.
I don't get like that. That's a weird, like, that's probably one of the weirder relationships in all the sports, like between player and team is I would say Brett Favre is Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Yeah,
but they paid him, so it's whatever.
They paid, you pay him, but you're not giving him anything to be successful.
And shout out to the Bears, another Penn State pick. Jaquan Brisker. I think he would, like, Kyle Hamilton is a do-it-all safety. If you're looking for like the in the box, come up and stuff the run and be a sure tackler and be that guy, then I think you got the best safety in the draft for that. Jaquan Brisker. So he's also a day one starter. So shout out to him. Shout out to Penn State again. One of our 8 draft selections.
You did. So 2 big things, 2 takeaways from this one. The Bears and the Vikings, they had a shit ton of picks this year.
Vikings had a lot.
The Vikings did. And they split it almost evenly, offense and defense. So they were kind of focused on everything over there. The other things, the big takeaway is Christian Watson. That's my main takeaway. I said I had 3. It was Christian Watson, Treylon Burks, and then Sky Moore. I want to see what those 3 do. I'm not ever going to choose the obvious ones. So those are my 3. The Bears, I know. The Bears drafting Velus Jones Jr. out of Tennessee. That's someone that I want to see what ends up happening over there, just to see how he does in the kick return game. So he was one that had a lot of kick return yards, but also receiving yards. And I remember the year that Alvin Kamara came out. Those Tennessee boys will always like sneak up on you when they come into the NFL. So yeah. So I want to see what ends up happening.
He's quick too. He's fast.
Yes.
Like really fast.
Yeah. So the Lions did good. I wrote in my notes, they focused on defense. That was another thing they did. Jameson Williams goes into a pretty nice wide receiving core. Having Williams, you have DJ Chark that's there. You have St. Brown that's there. So I want to see what Goff can do with them. They're not going to be good. Don't have anyone thinking they're going to be a great team. They're going to be staying the course. They won't be the first round draft. Number 1 pick next year, but they're not going to be a Super Bowl contender. They're not going to be a Super Bowl contender until all the forwards die. So let's just put it that way. And so with that note, we'll segue into the NFC West.
Jesus, dude. I can't.
They had a picture that had Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams looking into the sky to see Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, and Matthew Stafford. And it's like, that's what's going to be your future. You guys are going to love it here for a little bit. It's like, I was talking to someone today. teachers love when they first become a teacher, like the first, second year. They're so excited. Then it's like, this is a lot of work. Like this is every single day. And that's how it is with the Lions. You get so excited there. Calvin Johnson bought out Matthew Stafford. Then you're like, damn, this losing shit is not fun. Yeah. So that's kind of what.
And then you're in the same. And then you're in the same spot you were the year before.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of how it is. I want the best for them, but I feel like so much at the top has to change, and it's just not going to change.
You mean like
into the NFC? What? Huh?
You mean they gotta die? Like that's literally what you just said.
They have to die.
Like that's basically what you just said. Like you just said that out loud. Like the owners have to die in order for this team to get better. Okay.
They had to, like, I think
maybe we'll edit that out.
No, so I don't want them to, but like that lineage has to either fall off
To
or
clarify,
something has to change.
to clarify, Christian doesn't want the owners of the Detroit Lions to die, but like something significant has to change, is what he's saying.
Yeah. I don't want anyone to
Like
get
that.
hurt in the world that they have to end up like selling the team like that. But some shit needs to change because you have to get traded in order for you to win a championship. You're not winning one there. But going to the NFC West, but the lineage has to die off.
Literally. Seattle. Shout out to the Seahawks.
Man said they would draft Malik Willis and Baker Mayfield.
I did. None of that's gonna happen. None of that's gonna happen.
They shut that shit down.
Oh man. Yo, I was so confident about that too. Like I was one of those things where like I still kind of believe that's gonna happen, but like, you know, I still believe like the Baker obviously the Malik Willis is gonna happen, but like the Baker Mayfield thing can still happen. But they had a really solid draft. They got their
no more Chris Carson soon.
Yeah, that's your boy. They got Charles Cross. They got their left tackle. I think he's the guy obviously come in right away and play. I think they got not gonna say like one of the top tier corners in the draft, but Kobe Bryant, not that Kobe Bryant. Obviously, like that's a stupid comment I just made, but Kobe Bryant, cornerback out of Cincinnati, played opposite of Sauce Gardner. So like you didn't hear a lot about him. He got a lot of attention because Sauce Gardner was shutting down receivers.
Yeah.
But he also played for Cincinnati. So like sure they made the college football playoffs, but like no one was really caring about Cincinnati for most of the season. So there's that. They got Kenneth Walker, again, running back, get him whenever, running back out of Michigan State, best running back in probably college football last year. So I think they filled some needs, definitely. I guess it seems like they're gonna roll with Drew Lock. I mean, they have
Young
Tyler
Jeezy.
Lockett, they have DK Metcalf, they have a ton of talent, but like, you know, again, there's still plenty of time for the trades to happen and for them to get Baker Mayfield. So I can at least be right on some of that. But like, if that's going to be your guy heading into the season, I mean, okay, like you'll be drafting a quarterback next year then.
They absolutely. And I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like the way they're going to go. So, but I think overall, the Seahawks are always a wild card. You never know what to expect with them. I mean, they traded away Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
Like they're two best players over the last 15 years. So like, you never know what they're going to do. Like the Great Northwest, you never know. So I think they filled some needs. They got a lot of like the, you know, upper tier players of certain positions. So very happy with what they did. They got another guy who I've seen plenty of, Tyreek Smith, DN from Ohio State, the Ohio State University. They got him late in the mid round, I think fifth round. So good for them. I think they definitely, like I said, filled some holes, filled some needs. But if they don't have a quarterback, none of that's going to matter because they'll be drafting, you know, they'll suck and they'll draft in the top 5 next year, which seems to be what their plan is.
Yeah. So I guess they're going for one of those quarterbacks next year, which I promise you, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett will be like, praise
like, let's
Jesus,
go.
like, let's go. We do not want Drew Lock. Drew Lock's probably gonna have to figure something out. My big ones here are Walker getting drafted to the Seahawks. Carson gets injured so much, and I say this every year. And Walker will be able to be a good backup. Of course, they have like Rashad Penny and they have like different random people that are there. But Walker will be somebody the 49ers just keep drafting these damn running backs. Like every year, it just seems they just draft another running back. And my last thought about it is shout out to Marquis Hayes. He is going to be an All-American, All-Pro, all everything for the Cardinals. He's not really, but he was drafted in the 7th round. Those are my only thoughts there. Their big thing is they have Hollywood Brown to fulfill.
Huge with
Hopkins.
now. So okay,
that's interesting.
Like, do you think they saw that? Like they saw that coming?
It's so weird.
The suspension, like, and it. I mean, I'm not gonna say it makes sense that they made the trade, but like they maybe had to have known something was going to happen with him getting suspended, which, like, you know, those PED suspensions they always crack me up. Like, how the fuck do you not know what you're taking?
You remember when Darius Leonard said it too?
If it's not something that you've been taking since you came into the league, which, by the way, like, having like seen Jay Hill go through the league, knowing what they can't take, which is basically everything. Like you might get popped for an aspirin, you know? So like, you know what you can't take. And these guys train, and Hopkins has been in the league for what, almost 10 seasons.
All of a sudden now.
Like, bro, like I mean, my opinion is that it has something to do with the injury last year. And he was trying to get back and like stay back.
Yeah.
So that happened. That seems to happen if dudes test positive, because
I was good this month and it didn't work this month, but I was good this month.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is on PEDs, you know. No. Sorry to say, like, I don't, you know, no slight to him. He's a great athlete, but like, I don't think he's a guy that's gonna be popping steroids or whatever PEDs they are. Like, shit, I think half the things I probably take to go before I go to the gym would probably test positive for most guys.
I know.
So but again, back to my question, like, do you think they knew something was up? Like, do you think they knew he was going to test positive? Because AJ Green's on the way out. Like, he's not AJ Green like he used to be. You know, they need weapons. They need more weapons. They have a ton of them. They have a ton of weapons now.
They do.
So, but 6 games is a lot, especially in that division, which, you know, it is going to be still super solid. Like, I feel like they had to have known that it was going to come.
That's the thing. A lot of the times they know, but they, of course, can't say anything until the league or someone else leaks it. One of the snitches tell Rap Sheet and Adam Schefter. But they had to have. It's one of those that they have time. They just have to go through everything. But they say, all right, you can do this. Just don't say shit until it comes out. And it's like, wow, you got Hollywood Brown at just the right time. And crazy part is, I don't know if you heard it. They were saying, if any of this gets leaked out, we weren't about to go through with the trade. So it's one of those, I'm pretty sure they knew. They had to like do it on the sly so nothing would end up being found out. But my big thing here is, so I did have one thing. So if Deebo Samuel leaves, I think Danny Gray could be the big thing in that division. If Deebo Samuel stays, I think Ken Walker can be the big thing. I say that because Deebo leaves, that kind of leaves a gaping hole there. We'll go to the NFC least. So what are your thoughts?
Same thing with the Jets. I think the Giants had a killer draft. I think my personal opinion is I think that Kayvon Thibodeau was the number 1 player in the draft. I think he got a lot of I mean, he went 5 overall, so it's not like he dropped down to like 20, right? So, but I think he got a lot of heat for like random reasons. I mean, I feel like every time I looked around, he was the only one dropping off people's draft boards, like, for whatever reason. So I think that's something they needed to do. They need to address 2 areas of like major concern: their D end and their left tackle. Because if you're gonna, they have what they think is their franchise quarterback in Daniel Jones, and if you're going to, you know, protect him, and if you're going to let him, like, you know, potentially pan out as your franchise quarterback, you need to protect him. I think that's an obvious one. And they got, in my opinion, they got the best left tackle in the draft in Evan Neal, who is a fucking monster. He's an absolute animal. So he's a guy who's going to come in right away and play. Obviously he's day one starter, and so was Thibodeau. And those are two guys who can like both change the game in a multitude of reasons. So I think that helps. And they have playmakers on the outside. They only they drafted one wide receiver. They drafted a tight end, but they went heavy on the offensive line and on defense, which they needed to. They needed to stack up on those areas. But I think they had those first two picks. Again, I hate being cliche. I hate going with people's first round picks, but like there's a certain players that like you need to get, and if you get them, they're game changers. They needed to get two guys on both ends, like on both edges of their lines, and who can control the line of scrimmage. And I think they did. And again, I think Thibodeau is probably, in my opinion, best player in the draft. But the fact that he fell to them at 5, and then Evan Neal is still there 2 picks later. Shout out to the Eagles for giving them the pick. So I mean, again, I hate going the first round picks, but I think those are two of the elite players, and like the 2 elite players in the draft.
Yeah. Starting with the Cowboys, I think
please start with the Eagles.
All right, starting with the Eagles. We finally got our wide receiver. I've been waiting years for that. Howie Roseman said, I'm not too good at this whole first round drafting wide receiver shit. Let's go trade for one. So we did that. I really like the if he's healthy, then the Kobe Dean pick. It depends on like health and stuff. Some people are saying he will be able to play.
Too.
Yeah, some people are saying he will be able to play. Others are saying that he'll need a red shirt this year. So that's another thing we have to end up figuring out, because if he is able to play, whenever he's able to play, that is a huge pickup for them. Having a linebacker, they said that they haven't had a linebacker like that since Jeremiah Trotter. I disagree, because we had like Jordan Hicks, who was definitely doing good for some years, aka whenever Tony Romo would do some dumb shit, Jordan Hicks was there. Don't know how we end up fucking that up, because that's something else that pisses me off. But a huge person is my man that's 6'6", 341 pounds, and Jordan Davis. So that's a big one. Massive, and that's what they probably expected Ryan Tannehill to do for Malik Willis, what Fletcher Cox will do for Jordan Davis, and what Mr. Juergens will be able to have done with Kelsey. That's what they were expecting Ryan Tannehill to do. Ryan Tannehill said, fuck that shit. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's my only thoughts on that. I think the Eagles did well for what they had. Their big focus is next year. In case Jalen Hurts messes up, they are secure. So they are able to get any of the quarterbacks that are there next year if Jalen Hurts messes up, which puts a lot of pressure on Hurts to succeed this year, because it's like, Hurts, if you do well, all right, these picks can go to everything else. If you do bad, we can trade the whole farm to move up. So it puts them in a much better position, and they're not mortgaging their future by doing that.
Shout out to the Washington Commanders taking Jahan Dotson first round, another Penn State player.
Forget Jahan Dotson. I want to talk about CP3. So the Commanders drafted CP3, aka Chris Paul, 300 pounds over there. So that's another pick that the Commanders have. Pay attention to Howell, because that'll be real funny if Carson Wentz does not.
It's real funny that if you look at every single mock draft a year ago, they all had Sam Howell or some combination of Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler going number 1 overall.
Yeah.
And he fell 5th round.
I know.
Like, I don't think he would be a permanent replace. It's like quarterbacks are so weird. Like I know none of the 250 some odd players that got drafted are a lock to be good. They can all be bust for what we know. But quarterbacks in particular, obviously, like, I feel like it's either hit or miss. There's some guys who have like in between careers, obviously, but like
Marcus Russell.
Yeah, but it's just funny how like Sam Howell dropped from like a potential number 1 overall pick, came back, and he was a 5th round pick, lost out on like $30 million.
I know. Yeah, my last 2 things are the Giants. They focus on the trenches. That was my big thing. That's what they needed to do. They got some more help for Saquon Barkley, so I hope that ends up helping Saquon stay healthy. That's a big thing over there. I do not think Danny Dimes is the future, aka that's why they didn't pick up his 5th year on that one. And the Cowboys, the big one for me is they found almost a pretty damn good pairing for Micah Parsons to get Sam Williams there. I want to see what'll happen. I was joking around. I was joking around with one of my friends because we were talking about Sam Williams, how like he got kicked off the team, then he came back, and we were like, well, look who brought it back. Like, he's not going to say no to any player. Kiffin's going to accept anybody over there.
Everybody.
So, and we were joking because we said, if you look at the records, kind of before Kiffin to now, the only difference is he just brought all the kids that were not good off the field on the team, and the team got better.
Yeah, why not? Ballers. Exactly.
We care what you do for us on the field.
Who cares?
Not outside the stadium.
Nope.
So that's everything I got over here. What you got for everyone?
I bought Mason his first golf club today. Like this is like it's a kid's pitching wedge, but it's like, he had like the small plastic ones, the Fisher Price ones and everything. But I bought him his like first real kids golf USA regulation golf club. So, and I sent you the video. He was smacking the shit out of it. Like he's got the mechanics of like the swing down. Like, he plays baseball too. So that's next, which by the way, my man went 2 for 2 with 2 singles in T-ball last weekend.
Wow.
But yeah, I bought him his first golf club today. Kid can swing the shit out of the club. Like I said, he's got the mechanics for a good golf swing. Now it's just like Pop's putting in the work and, taking him to the range and not being Earl Woods type of shit, but like, getting out there with him and teaching them more mechanics and things of that nature. So yeah, super pumped about that.
Yeah. My only couple of things.
One more. One very important thing. Today's my mom's birthday. So shout out to Mama Springs.
Yeah, shout out.
I know she's not going to listen to this, but love you, Mom. Appreciate all that you do for us and all you do for me. Yeah, shout out to my mom. Happy birthday, Mom.
So happy birthday. I guess the only one, and Steven brought it up to an extent. So where I go to play basketball, like on the courts, you get to see them playing like recreational, like softball, baseball, like co-ed teams, sometimes just regular. And I realized that watching T-ball and then watching recreation softball is so much more entertaining than watching baseball. Like, it's so much more entertaining. The kids, and this is what sucks, because people talk about teasers and like getting led on in life. You get led on so much when you play T-ball and then baseball as like, wow, this is how fun it's going to be. And then half the time, the outfielders just standing there twiddling their thumbs or like waiting around. If you look at like rec stuff, the ball's always going out there. You can run around, and T-ball, you're going to find a way to get involved in it. The coaches are more engaged. Baseball, you are going to be out there. Unless you are like Coco Crisp or like the other one, second Spider-Man the Wall, you're going to just be waiting there for a long time. Imagine if there's a shutout. You're never getting the ball.
Dude, watching Mason and like all of his teammates and the other team play and they're 3 and 4. So like they're 3 and 4. Watching them play is like watching the adult beer softball league. They're just like drunk adults. Like they swing and miss. And then when they make contact, they don't really know how to run to first. They'll stumble, the helmet falls off, and they're just kind of like, standing there on first base, like waiting. They don't know what to do. The kids who are in the outfield, which is like, I mean, everything is scaled down like from this to like this, basically for T-ball. Like the kids who are standing at second base or in the outfield, which is like where second base is, they were looking at rocks, like picking up shit.
Yeah,
and, like,
that's what they're doing.
my buddy's son put a rock in his nose, like literally put a rock in his nose. So he had to snot rocket that thing out, and then he had to go pee in the woods, which like happens at adult softball leagues. So like kids are just like miniature drunk adults. Like they don't know what they're saying. They always slur their words. They don't know, like, it's just so funny. But I'm just really glad that Mason like is good at sports at 3, and like some of the kids I see, like they're not, and then you can tell the parents are like just like pissed that their kid's not good at sports. And I'm like, yeah, dude, my fault. I don't know what that's like because my kid's good at sports.
Yeah. So I'll close it with this one. And speaking of kids, so you're kind of teach your kids when you go to different things, don't do XYZ. And I'm bringing this up. I go to bowling every Monday, and I saw this family with like 1 or 2 kids, and dude, the ball got stuck in the gutter. And so the dad was like, all right, clearly I could just walk on the lane and just go get it. but you got your kid there that you told him don't do this.
Yeah.
So dad goes, walks on the lane, gets the ball, brings it back. So the kid's like, I was taught my whole life. Hold up, let me go. So he walks out there.
He busts his ass, didn't he? Yeah, of course he did.
And they had to grab him, like bring him back.
Yeah.
And it's like, now he's going to go tell his friends at school, yo, you can walk on the alley. Like that's a thing. And that's kind of how like Santa happens, Tooth Fairy happens, everything happens, because it just takes one bad apple to ruin it for everybody. But
one of these days, you'll invite me to do some of these journeys. I don't need to go to Mexico with you, but like, maybe bowling once every now and then, every Monday. I'm free on Mondays.
Yeah, man.
You just
let me know if you got a bolero and I'll be there.
You just using me for my podcast abilities.
Yeah, you're good content for the people, everyone out there. But so that's all we got right now. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week. The quick slants will be out this week, and then I'll have the spaces on Monday. So with that, we're out.
Love you, Mom.